All right, here we go again. Making my way home today. It is a nice day too. And I have been spending my later half of my day at this other place because people insisted that I had to do that, but it feels kind of like a waste, and I kind of knew that it was going to be. But sometimes you just have to do things regardless, for the simple fact of saying that you did them. And that was the point here, was to be like, you know what? I want to be able to say that I did this, so that when people come at me, because I know people will come at me and be like, have you ever even spent a minute here? Have you ever done this? Have you ever done that? And I was be like, yeah, actually I have done these things, and they went over quite nicely. So get lost, you big lame. And that's kind of part of it. And so we'll see what happens. I will aim to make this an awesome thing, and that's all we can do, really. I was thinking about making a video. Oh my god. I was thinking about making a video of me just singing songs. I've done that before, but I think I deleted it because I still have not come across it. I don't know where it went. But at any rate, it makes me wonder if there's like a folder of videos that just got deleted somewhere. Hopefully there's not multiple folders of videos that just got deleted somewhere. But it definitely recorded a video of me singing in my car, and it never did surface. And so I don't know what happened to it. Today is the day where I hang out with my mom and my brother, and we play story-based games. We're reaching a point in the current game where I'm reminded as to why I like this particular story game that we're playing is the Quarry. And I did not like the Quarry very much at all. It was mostly a disappointing game. But there was one aspect of the Quarry that I did like, and that was an aspect of the story that they had, which essentially made it to where there was no villain in the traditional sense. And so, like, the story of the Quarry is you have this Hackett summer camp that all these teenagers volunteer their time to be camp counselors at Hackett Summer Camp. And in this particular year, a couple students decide to show up a night early, which leads to some weird, creepy things that happen. And then from there, they get attacked and disappear. And then the story takes place more properly in the present day. And it's the last day of summer camp. Everybody is set to go home, and one of the students sabotages the van so that they can't go home because he's hoping to hook up with one of the counselors that's there. And that sets the stage for what's about to become like some super awful thing. And so, of course, the kids get all rambunctious, and they don't stay in the cabin, and they mess about, and they end up getting attacked. And spoiler alert, there's werewolves in this camp, and they get attacked by werewolves. And then it's revealed that they're like the head of the camp, Chris Hackett, the guy who like owns the camp, he is a werewolf himself. And the two kids that went missing in the beginning of the story were attacked by his werewolf self. And they have an interesting little change on the werewolf story, that being that in order to cure yourself, you have to slay the werewolf that bit you. And I think that's kind of interesting, because you get this like chain reaction thing going on where it's like, oh, well, this werewolf bit you, and you bit this person, and this person bit that person. But technically, if you kill like the first werewolf in that chain, you would cure all of them. And so it creates this really interesting kind of dichotomy with their werewolfing and how that works. But anyway, the students are, well, I shouldn't say the students. Two of the students are hunting down Chris Hackett, Werewolf Hackett, to try and kill him. And as this is all going down, you learn that the sheriff is brothers with Chris Hackett, and he's involved. The family is actively hunting the wolf that infected Chris Hackett, but it's a bit more complicated than that. So there used to be a freak show that went around in town, and they would like put on performances or whatever, and they had a boy in a cage that they called the Amazing Wolf Boy or whatever, and they would just keep this boy caged up. Well, Chris Hackett's young teenage daughter sympathized with this boy, and so she hatched a plan to set him free. And they set fire to hay bales in order to get a distraction so that they could set the wolf boy free. Well, the hay bales burnt up and caused a much bigger accident than they had intended it to. And when the wolf boy got free, he turned, and when he turned, he attacked Chris Hackett's young daughter, and Chris Hackett's son, the daughter's older brother, stepped in to protect her, and he wound up getting bit in the attack. And so the older brother got bit protecting the younger sister who was trying to save a boy who'd been locked up in a cage. And then at some point in time, obviously the brother, I think his name is Kyle, the brother turns and bites the dad, and then the dad turns and bites the daughter. And so then the family decides to lock them up every full moon so that they can so that they can hunt down the original wolf that bit them. Because obviously, like, you don't want to kill Kyle because he's just an innocent kid who accidentally got bit while trying to protect his sister. You also don't want to kill the sister because she was just trying to do a good thing, and killing her wouldn't do you any good anyway because she was infected by the dad. And you don't want to kill the dad because you don't want to kill the dad. And so it creates this interesting dichotomy of a story where there really is no real villain. And like people go back and forth about like who is presented as the villain, and most of the time in this particular story it's the parents of the older people. And so like Chris Hackett, and I don't remember the other guy's name, but Chris Hackett's dad and mom are presented as these evil beings. And the wolf boy, I don't even know if it's the wolf boy's mom. I think it might be his mom. I don't really know. But the wolf boy's caretaker is like another villain, because it's like, what are you doing bringing this infected child around other people's like dwellings? Like, you knew something bad was going to happen there. But it's the kids that messed around and got everything all mucked up. And so they created this story that you can understand and appreciate, but on the same hand, it's like there's no villains here. And it's interesting because it presents the idea that like a story doesn't necessarily need a villain. Like, you can have a story where people are all doing justified things and they're doing things that make sense, and you as a person have to decide who you're going to side with, or just perpetually live torn as well, I suppose. But it's just an interesting dichotomy, because like it had really had been an interesting story if they gave you like real agency as the player to make choices. Like if I could have chosen to join the family and hunt down Silas, that's honestly the ending that I would have picked. Like, it's crappy because Silas doesn't deserve that, but it's also not ideal. This person pulled out in front of this truck that was going way too fast, and the truck had to come to a sudden stop to not crash into them. and then they very quickly just moved back over into the normal lane. I was like, why did you even move over? You moved over for 5 seconds, long enough to make this truck stop, and then you moved back over. Like, were you doing that on purpose, or are you just not paying attention? But anyway, going back to the story talk, it's interesting because, like I said, it shows that you can make a story where there is no concrete villain. Every character is doing justifiable things. And like I said, if they had given the character or the player agency to make their own choice in the matter, that would have been a really powerful thing. And I feel like that's something that these story-based games could really gain from, is like when a character has a full arc and they go from being person A to person B, they tend to have to make a choice, and that choice would go against something that we previously understood or perceived about that character. And that is how you know that they have come full circle. They've made the arc because they've now decided that they're going to do this instead of that or whatever. And so the interesting thing to me is the fact that like no one has caught on that like that would be a pivotal player choice to be able to make, to be the deciding factor of this character's arc. And you could even like take it a step further and say that they're deciding whether or not this character even has an arc. Like, if you decide to stick to your guns and continue doing what you've always been doing, then your character has no arc. But if you decide to stick it to the man and go against your thoughts because you have a better understanding of the world now, that's different. And so the hope that I'm trying to convey here is that like we could have a world where story-based games gave us agency as the players to make pertinent choices. And I don't know, as many story games that I have played, I don't know very many of them that give the player any true agency. And like the Quarry especially is bad about not giving the player like choice enough to do good things. Detroit Become Human is incredible. That was a really good one that has a lot of stakes and a lot of different outcomes and a lot of agency there. I feel like Life is Strange 2 does really well with giving the player agency, and like Life is Strange 2 hinges on that morality system with you and your brother, and the fact that the morality system is completely based on a character that you can't control adds an element to the game that is, in my opinion, very interesting. And so those two, I feel like, did a good job at giving the player agency with their choices. I haven't played very many others that are able to do that. I'm just trying to rattle off like the big titles. Like Life is Strange 1 definitely did not give you any agency. They completely fumbled on the ending, which is frustrating that people love that game so much and they want Max and Chloe to come back, and I'm just like, why? Because like their story wasn't that good. Their characters were not that good. But whatever. I'm not here to complain about them. I am here, however, to say that I think that that's something that if these story-based games are going to become bigger than what they are now, they're going to have to try and get that. They're going to have to try and nail that down. Because right now, they're really just like cheap games that someone can put out that have an isolated amount of outcomes. As Dusk Falls does pretty good with player agency as well. It has a still frame like art value to it, which makes it to where you can have more outcomes, because like obviously if it's a 3D game you have to record all of these scenes in order to have all of these outcomes. But if it's just a 2D thing, then you don't have to do near as much work to get the outcomes out that you want. And so, but yeah, player agency is huge, and the Quarry does not give the players agency. So when you learn about the history, they don't really give you the choice to be like, oh, I want to do this instead of that, or oh, I want to kill him instead of them, or oh, I don't want to kill him, or whatever it may be. And so, yeah, it's just interesting to me that they made that distinction, or that lack of a distinction. And so we'll see. Interested to see what my brother in particular thinks of the story. Like I said, I think it's really interesting what they did, in that they created a story without a villain. And it's like, who do you blame? Who is at blame for this? You can't really blame anyone. And it's like, so then what do you do? And it's like, the best solution would be to find the werewolf that infected Silas and kill it. But good luck finding that, because like Silas is just a kid too. He's the same age as Kyle and Kaylee. And so it's like, okay, well, what do we do here? Like, who do we kill? Do we kill anyone? Do we just keep covering this up perpetually? There's so many options, and none of them necessarily sound like the wrong option. Killing Chris Hackett would be like the most acceptable option, because it's not you killing a child, but it's also doesn't get you very far. Like, you only end his line of succession. And so technically, if Kaylee wasn't already dead, you could have saved her. And then if let's see, and that would have saved Max, and it would have saved Laura as well. But I don't know, it's an interesting little system that they've got going on. And like I said, I already know most of how the game plays out, and I'm not like, oh my gosh, super thrilled about it. But like I said, they at least were able to make a pretty interesting story angle, which I can always appreciate that. And so like when the story unfolded, and I was like, wow, there's not really a villain here. Like, who do you blame? Who do you say, like, this is your fault? Like, you really can't do that to anybody. And that was an interesting concept. So this has been another ride home with me. I hope you guys enjoyed our little chat. We'll do it again and again and again and again and again and again. Goodbye.